Welcome back to Property Deconstructed with Mark Errichiello from Master Advocates. I'm Pat Panetta, and our special guest for number 2, so this is episode 12, but you've come back to join us, Michael Furlong, the director of Rent Roll Maximiser. Michael is into property management, training and consultancy, yes. And you go into businesses and you basically look at their rent roll and you make it all better for them. Would that be right, Michael?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Pat. Thank you, and thanks, Mark, for having me.
Thanks for coming back.
Yeah. Now, Michael is the president of an organisation you need to tell us about, yeah?
Yes, Rent Roll Maximiser is his business, but he's started the Real Estate Resource Group with a collective, and you're the president of that, so can you let us know a bit more?
I am, Mark, and thank you for that. So the Real Estate Resource Group was really founded to try and help real estate agents with the one place to find a service or a product, and it's a little bit like the BNI network, which is where we've spent some time together.
Yes.
And what we did was we created this where it was specifically, instead of reversing back to asking for referrals for anyone everywhere, what we looked at was what do real estate agents, what do they need and where do they spend their money? And as a result, we then went out and we've started to build a team that works together to try and help the real estate industry. So we run events, we run webinars. We've got an event coming up in a couple of weeks' time. We've been trying to get the Greens to speak and talk about their rent freeze policy. Difficult to try and nail the Greens down on anything. I've got
they get a good reception at the real estate group. The Greens coming there to talk about capping rents.
Do you have a date for that already?
Friday the 13th Friday the 13th is, and at the Royal Brighton Yacht Club.
Oh, nice.
I've got Quentin Killian, the CEO of the Real Estate Institute. He's coming down to present the real estate industry's position. I've also got Jess Wilson, the Shadow Opposition Housing and Affordability Minister. I think that's her correct title. She's going to come down and speak as well. And we also had the Greens, but now we're looking at potentially the Salvation Army or someone like that, because it's a massive issue. So the Real Estate Resource Group.
It's a good panel.
It is, and we've had really good panelists in the past, and I think, Mark, you've been one. You've been one of those.
To be on one, that was.
So
nice.
we have the Real Estate Resource Group where we have lunches, webinars, and what we try to do. It's not a place where we promote or advocate products or services externally, except for ourselves. So we're just trying to really provide a gap in the market, and I'm also involved in the REIV chapter,
the property management chapter,
and that's another aspect. So I believe that I'm of one of those people that I believe if you can help, you should help, and instead of just sitting back and complaining about things.
Yes.
And it's also I'm
Get
a parent.
On the committee.
I'm a parent, so I've got kids as well. I want to try and then develop that. I think you should be able to get involved in your community, whether it's your church, whether it's your charity or something.
Yes.
So I've been involved in kids sport all the way through, and haven't been overly happy with what the REIV's been putting out for the last couple of years. So put my hand up and jumped on board.
Yeah, so and you'll have some committee organisation around events coming forward, and resources and things like the Real Estate Resources Group as well. It becomes like a power group of affiliated professionals, not just real estate agents. Even at your last event that I came to, there was some good conversations with other related professionals like solicitors and I think there was some mortgage brokers. Yeah, networking. Yeah.
Guess what? I haven't asked Michael about the number one thing that when you go into a business, and we said it at the last episode, when you come in, you look at a rent roll, and a big mistake that people are making all over the place.
Yeah. It's actually, and it's not. It's going to surprise you because it really isn't that difficult. It's the quality of the documentation. So it's the compliance. Now I know, Mark, you were going to talk about compliance, and that's when I first started, because auditing, analytics, compliance, numbers. That's my bag. That's my profile. However, when I go to a sales principal or I go to a director and say, I want to talk to you about your auditing, it's like I might as well be speaking another foreign language. So what I do is I really look at that and say, well, how does that link back through into rent roll growth? Now, the moment I start talking about rent roll growth, every director wants to talk to me.
They start listening then.
Yeah, but it's the same thing. And how do we get rent roll growth? We look at our compliance. How do we get rent roll growth? We have a look at our staff retention. How do we get rent roll growth? We look at our customer relations.
So they're sort of the roots of it all. You put in some solid foundations, and then you'll get growth.
So the number one thing, and this is really, it is basic, and that is, if you do not have an authority to act, you then can't charge a fee. So if you can't charge a fee, you can't sell it. And really it then trickles down from there.
Right.
So what I look at from almost like if Consumer Affairs was to walk into your real estate office and then do an audit, they'll look at that and then they'll maybe give you an enforceable undertaking or maybe a fine. I'll walk into your office and say, maybe we need to fix these things. Let's get them sorted and we'll try and rectify it. So I really look at the documentation, the licensing, and I have a look at, and it's really basic. A lot of people don't know how to fill in because we now have moved to an electronic world.
Yes.
It's just that it's monkey do, monkey follow, or I think that whatever that expression is, they're just really just ticking boxes.
Monkey do, monkey see.
Monkey see, is that what it is?
Monkey see, monkey do.
Oh, right.
Between the three of us, we got there.
Three wise. I could be
I
wrong.
will not bring up any more of those because I
wrong.
stuffed it up. But what it is, and I see it often where I'll get a younger person that's been in the industry for a couple of years, and I'll say, "Why did you do it that way?" And it's because that's the way we've always done it, or that's the way I was shown, or even sadder, that's the way I used to do it at my old place. So what I try to do is I walk in and I say, what is the operational standard of an office? If you don't have any, well then let's adopt some. So we'll create some minimum standards, some operational standards, and then they become the benchmark in an office, and then we performance manage to that. So
Life must be easier for everybody too. Once you get a system in there and things are rolling and you're compliant, it's not a headache anymore.
I'm going to throw
Don't you
another
think?
one. Don't be careful what you ask for.
You're gonna help yourself.
Be careful what you wish for, because everyone wants systems, Pat.
Yeah.
But they don't want to follow them themselves.
Right.
So
But that's what you implement.
That's what I do. So every director, and it's really funny, I say a director says, I want my staff to follow all these systems. And I say, that's great, but you have to follow it as well.
Yeah.
No, this is for the staff.
Yeah.
And so there it's your fish rotting from the top.
Yeah,
That's what we
everyone
talked about
has to be
before.
involved.
Yeah.
And then you don't fear any audits. If the files are well maintained, then you don't fear a file audit or compliance.
I really, and I tell you, this is again my
I'm
profile.
going to Google something while you do that. Yeah, okay.
Years ago, when Consumer Affairs, when I had my rent roll and I was based in Richmond, and Consumer Affairs came into my office one day, because they just do random audits. And it's interesting, Mark, I don't know if you know this, but the same auditors will come in, and the day that they did an audit on our office, no reflection on our office, but they were at 2 massage parlours earlier, and then they had some second-hand dealers and a card trader to do in the same day.
It's a broad portfolio.
It's a very broad portfolio.
What are they doing, these guys? I missed it. They
Consumer Affairs inspectors.
Audit, yeah.
Right,
So you've got auditors
CAV
for your
inspectors.
trust accounts, that which you're as an agency, that's separate. You've got you're bound,
Right.
You're obligated to do that. But then you've got file and agency auditors to make sure you're operating the right way in these systems.
And
And they just walk in unannounced?
They do. Yeah,
Oh, right.
yeah, they do. CAV just walk in. They can. So if you've
It's
got
under the Commonwealth,
Right.
so if you've had complaints, or they'll randomly do it. So I had my office for 14 years and I had one inspection. So it just goes to tell you how easy it is. When I said before in the earlier episode, when I talked about it's really self-regulated.
I've probably had one.
But
in 20 years.
20
or so,
years, yeah. So
Guys, let me tell you about this book. It's called The Ultimate Sales Machine. When you're talking about something, it's by a guy named Chet Holmes, The Ultimate Sales Machine. When you're talking about processes and people not wanting to follow it, his phrase is pig-headed discipline. Like you just go in there and you keep going back to the well, repetition, going back to someone, why didn't it work? So this pig-headed discipline to sort of go, and then you just keep trying, and eventually 3 months, 6 months in, it's rolling. But I guess that's the world you're dealing with, this pig-headed discipline of like,
absolutely.
well, try again type thing.
yeah, and look, there'd be a lot of people that would say that I'm a bit pig-headed. Because when I walk into a business, I say, here is a system. It's not necessarily the best system to follow, but it is a system. Why don't we try this until we find something different? And the difficulty is, because we have a collective of real estate agents, very few agents will come to an office without previous experience, a baggage somewhere else. So what happens is you might have, and I'm going to just use some brands, some Melbourne brands. So you might have a Jealous Craig office that's employed a Barry Plant property manager, a Ray White property manager, a Woodards property manager. So all of a sudden,
different ways of doing it.
Yeah. So if you don't have the Jealous Craig, and please, I'm just not talking about those. If you haven't got that way in that office, all of a sudden the default is that you're now getting the other offices processes.
It's a different ecosystem mix.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying before around it's either, and it's by default. Property managers typically aren't doing things because they choose to do things poorly. They're doing them because they have so many things to do. It's a very tough job. It's an incredibly tough job.
Yeah. So you're dealing with the owners of the property. What do we call them now?
Renters?
Rental
providers.
Or residential rental providers. You've got commercial providers as well, but it's different regulations.
Yes. And how much of the equation are the tenants or the rent payers? Is that somebody you need to look after and service as well? Because that'd be a big job too.
You're obligated by law and duties to make sure you're representing your landlord or your rental provider. That word again, but you've got duty of care over the renters.
Of course, and again we go back to the Residential Tenancies Act, and there's so many. There's over 100 acts of Parliament, just both state and federal.
Change names. change titles of stuff.
You could be our next,
smart
next leader.
Yeah.
But there's over 100 acts of Parliament that the property manager needs to learn. And sadly, what we're not doing is we're not investing in our younger people coming into the industry. There were some changes again to the minimum standards for education for real estate agents to get in to do an agent's rep. That just completely stuffed the industry. So we now, it's so much more difficult to get in. Instead of doing a week's course or a 2 weeks course or a couple of months, it's now $5,000 and 6 months worth of work to do. Yes. So we've stopped those people coming into the industry. We've got a mass exodus of older people getting out, particularly post-COVID. We've got more regulation. And then we've got this revolving door of politicians thinking that landlords or rental providers are a cash cow, so we're just throwing another tax on them. Therefore, they're getting angry and then leaving.
It's a housing crisis. And rental state of the market.
So the housing crisis is not a crisis; it's a supply issue.
Yes,
it's an absolute supply issue, and the industry knows it. The only people that aren't listening to this is the government at the moment.
So he's going to build 800,000 dwellings in a decade.
What I like, which was really nice,
200 and something a day or something.
Let's knock down 44 commission social housing places and build another 44 of them. So where's the net gain? All we're doing is it's
probably smaller than the original one.
It's another tunnel. It's another Westgate tunnel, or it's another. Let's remove 85
the properties that weren't of a proper standard and investment to fix them. But then you've got to. That's ambitious goals to build new housing, but about making incentives for the current established rental providers to hang in there and not sell out because of being overtaxed or overregulated they're providing the housing.
And I think why think about building all those properties or new dwellings, what about the existing? Creating an incentive for the existing people in there, so push them out.
Absolutely, and I think we've got to move away from this stigma where it says that any landlord or any rental provider is wealthy or cash rich. I think off the back of 2 years of COVID,
that's just demonising that sector. So people like the Greens can get what they want. They just go out and say that they're all rich and they're all corporate, and do you know that they're all sort of demons, so they can push their agenda. But the reality is it's not true.
No. And the hardest thing, and again, let's just run it right back to the property manager. The property manager is really caught in the middle. So you have to have a look at the demographic of a property manager as someone, and typically I'm generalising here, someone between 20 and maybe 35-ish, predominantly female. I'm not saying it is always, but it's predominantly female industry.
Good property managers.
Very good property managers. And now what we're expecting them to do, they need to be mediators, negotiators, and now they need to be financial controllers. They need to be debt collectors. They need to have all of these psychologists. And we wonder why the industry is imploding, where property managers are just saying, this is too bloody hard, for whatever wage it is. And it doesn't matter what the wages are, it's too hard. So offices and again, other things that I look at when I'm going into offices, how do we look at staff retention? How do we go about making sure that how do we go through and make sure we've got, whether it's work from home blend, whether I was in an office yesterday and they do massage days once a month and little things like that, staff lunches. Right. How do we attract?
So it's pretty broad what you're looking at. You're looking at sort of the mental health and the
retention.
Retention, okay. How to make it a good working environment.
Evolve for the next decade or the next 20 years. What does the industry look like?
Absolutely. Because if you lose a staff member, if you lose a property manager, let's just say lost a property manager today. Today's Tuesday. Lose a property manager. It could take anywhere between 3 to 6 months for the new property manager, let's say you found one today, 3 to 6 months to get back to the stage where the person was yesterday.
Yeah.
So you've got downtime, you're losing relationships, you're losing all that knowledge, all that IP. So when I work in a business, I have a look at all the risk factors. So when I'm doing a health check, that's why it takes 2 weeks. I look at this and say, what are the risk factors? If you've got all the knowledge sitting in a property manager's head, we've got a problem there. That person's going to implode.
Yes.
Or if they get hit by the proverbial bus, all that knowledge leaves. If they just decide to throw their hands in the air and they walk out the door.
Rotating door of clients then,
that's,
because why aren't you retaining clients or staff? It's too hard.
And they're the things where property managers really, they're gold. If you've got a good property manager, look after them, invest in them. So I spend a lot of time also, Pat, in saying, what's our professional development plan for each property manager? So when I walk in, when I'm working through with a staff, with a team, each person will have their own plan, because not everyone wants to be a property manager for the rest of their life. Not everyone wants to be a department manager. So how do we go about upskilling this person and giving them some skills which they can use, which is going to benefit the business, but you're also anchoring people as well.
So are the staff in general happy to see you, or some are like, oh, here comes that guy, he's going to tell me what to do?
Do you know, it's interesting, when we've talked about before about the systems, so those that are really compliant and want to progress and want to develop and professionally develop themselves love what I do. Not initially, because it's a lot more hard work. Firstly, we have to untrain. So everything that you know, we have to untrain and then retrain. So that's awkward. So that's why it's a 90, 120-day program. But you do get, and it happens a lot, you do get those that are either hiding things, those that are faking, those that are
they're being sort of on the
edge,
on the edge, or maybe when I'm thinking sort of just for too long doing it their own way, the comfort zone, and they're thinking, oh, this is going to take me out of my comfort zone now, and they don't like that.
So we help them find their next role.
Yeah, okay. There you are.
Well, it's a good audit in many levels.
Yeah, well, that's
a good way. The analogy that I use...
And they'd be happier too, maybe in a better role somewhere else.
Absolutely. Yeah. The analogy that I use is very much, we're on a train, we're going to jump on, we're going to go through this journey, and at any stage we stop off at a station, you want to jump off, please let me know, because it's going to be really uncomfortable for you and really uncomfortable for us, because everyone else is moving forward, and if you want to hold things back and not embrace what we're trying to do. So the offices that I work with, and we've been doing this for a couple of years, so when we work in an office and it really you see the improvement, you see the retention, you see the clients, you look at the Google reviews, you look at the referrals, landlord referrals, all those sorts of things. What do we do? The affiliate program. So there's lots.
Wonderful.
I absolutely, and I must say this, hopefully it's come across in what I've been doing and talking to you guys about, but different to what I was doing 15 years ago. I used to be helping real estate rental providers build portfolios, and that was great, and I really enjoyed that, but I wanted a different challenge, and being in the industry for 25 years, this is incredibly challenging, because now I'm going in and I almost walk level to level or par to par with directors in their business, and I treat it as though they're my own for that 3, 4, 5 months whilst I'm there.
What a wonderful guest, and
great.
really good, a lot of great information there too. So it's been good having Michael in the studio. Mark, do you want to thank Michael? Anything I've missed out that I want to wrap it up before we go?
It was good. Yeah, and then we can talk a lot more and unpack a lot more, but I think we hit a lot of key points, and great that you can get in there and help agency principals, navigate the real estate storm, so to speak. So,
absolutely.
And help from your experience. So thanks again for coming in and sharing.
It's my pleasure. Thanks, guys.
Yep. Michael Furlong, Director of Rent Roll Maximiser and also Co-Founder and President of Real Estate Resources Group. Thanks for being on our podcast and videocast, Property Deconstructed. Thank you.